This happened on my 25th birthday. It wasn't a big party or anything like that, just something small at my house. My parents came over, my mom's older sister, and two of my close friends. That was it. I'm not really into big celebrations, especially after everything that happened a couple years before that. For a bit of context, my wife passed away when I was 23. It was sudden, and honestly, I'm still not fully over it. So birthdays have felt a little off since then. But my mom insisted we do something, even if it was small.
And I agreed. The night itself was actually nice. We had food, talked for a while, had a couple drinks. Nothing weird. Nothing out of the ordinary. If anything, it felt kind of normal, which I hadn't felt in a long time. By around 11:30, my friends left. My parents and my aunt were staying the night since they lived a bit far. I showed them where everything was, gave them blankets, all that. Eventually, everyone went to their rooms. I stayed up a little longer just cleaning up, putting away plates, throwing out trash, just normal stuff.
I remember standing in the kitchen at one point, just kind of zoning out, thinking about how the night went. And for a second, I thought about her, my wife. It wasn't anything unusual. I think about her pretty often. But for some reason that night it felt stronger. Like the memory was more vivid. I kind of brushed it off and went to bed. I don't remember exactly what time I fell asleep. Probably around 1 or 2. And then at some point during the night, I woke up. Or at least, I thought I did. The first thing I noticed was that I couldn't move at all. I had experienced sleep paralysis once before, so I kind of knew what was happening. I told myself the same thing people always say. Just stay calm, it'll pass. But something felt different this time. Heavier. Not just physically, emotionally too. Like there was something in the room with me. I was lying on my back, facing the doorway to my room. The door was slightly open. There was a faint light coming from the hallway. And then I saw someone standing there. At first I thought maybe it was my mom or my aunt. Maybe someone woke up and checked on me.
And that would have made sense. But the more I looked at the figure, the more I realized it wasn't either of them. It was a woman, standing completely still, just inside the doorway. And then I recognized her.
It was my wife. At least it looked like her. Same height, same hair, even the way she stood. I felt this mix of emotions all at once. Confusion, fear, and something else I can't really explain. I tried to speak, tried to say her name. Nothing came out. She didn't move. She just stood there, looking at me. And I don't know why, but I had this really strong feeling that something wasn't right. Like, even though she looked exactly like my wife, it didn't feel like her. After a few seconds, she started walking toward me. Slow, quiet steps. I could hear them faintly on the floor.
And the closer she got, the more that feeling grew. That something was off. She stopped right next to my bed, then slowly leaned down until her face was right above mine. I could see her clearly at that point. But her expression, it wasn't normal. It wasn't how I remembered her. She looked blank, like there was nothing behind her eyes. Then she spoke, very softly. "You forgot me."
that hit me in a way I wasn't expecting. Because I hadn't. I never did. And I started overthinking it immediately.
Like, was this just my brain messing with me? Guilt or something? Before I could process it any further, I suddenly could move again. I sat up immediately and turned on the light. The room was empty. The door was still slightly open. Nothing else. I got out of bed and checked the hallway. Everything was quiet. Everyone was asleep. I didn't really sleep after that. I just stayed awake until morning. I kept telling myself it was just sleep paralysis. Maybe my brain just created something based on memory. That made the most sense. In the morning, we were all in the kitchen having breakfast. Just normal conversation, coffee, small talk. Nothing serious. And then my mom mentioned something. She said she had a weird night. Said she woke up and couldn't move. And that she saw someone standing in her doorway. I didn't say anything at first. I just listened. Then my aunt kind of laughed a little and said the same thing happened to her. She said she thought she was dreaming, but it felt too real. Both of them described it as a woman. Neither of them said anything about who it looked like. Just a woman, standing in the doorway. That's when it started to feel wrong. Like, really wrong. I asked them what time it happened. They both said around the same time. Sometime after 3. I didn't tell them what I saw. I just kind of nodded and moved on with the conversation. Maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe we all had similar dreams. Or maybe being in the same house just messed with our sleep somehow. I don't know. But I do know one thing. That was the only time in my life where something like that happened to more than just me. And even now, I still try to come up with a logical explanation for it. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was just our minds playing tricks on us. But no matter how much I think about it, that night still doesn't make complete sense. And I'm not sure it ever will. This happened around 2 years ago when I was working at a small marketing firm. It wasn't a stressful job most of the time, but every now and then we'd get these deadlines that kind of forced everyone to stay late. That night was one of those nights. Most of my coworkers had already left by around 10 or 11. I told myself I'd stay a little longer, finish what I was doing, and then head home. Pretty normal. I've stayed late before, so it didn't really bother me. By the time it got to around midnight, the office was completely empty. At least, I thought it was. The lights in most sections were turned off, except for the row I was working in. Just a few dim overhead lights and my computer screen. I remember feeling really tired at that point. Like the kind of tired where your eyes start burning and you reread the same sentence 5 times. I told myself I'd just rest my eyes for a minute. Not sleep, just close them. Maybe like 30 seconds. I leaned back in my chair and shut my eyes. And the next thing I remember, I was awake again. But something felt off immediately. I didn't know how long I had been out. It could have been a minute or an hour. My computer screen was still on, but dimmer, like it had gone idle. The office felt quieter, not just empty, quieter than it should have been. I sat there for a second, trying to wake myself up properly. That's when I noticed I couldn't move.
At first I thought maybe my arm had just fallen asleep or something. But no. It was everything. My arms, my legs, even my head. That's when it clicked. Sleep paralysis. I had never experienced it before, but I knew what it was. I told myself to just stay calm. It'll pass, I kept thinking. But then I noticed something that didn't make sense.
One of the lights across the office was on. I was almost sure it had been off earlier. It was in a different row of desks, a little further down. I don't know why, but that bothered me more than anything at first. Like, maybe someone else was still there. Maybe a cleaner or security or something. That would have made sense. But then I heard a sound. A chair. Rolling. Slowly. Somewhere in that darker part of the office. I tried to turn my head toward it, but I couldn't. I could only see straight ahead. My desk. My screen. And part of the aisle between cubicles.
The sound stopped. And then I saw movement. Something passed through the gap between the cubicles. Just for a second. Like someone walking by. I felt my chest tighten immediately. Okay, maybe someone is here, I thought. I tried to call out. Nothing came out. Not even a whisper. A few seconds passed. Then I saw it again. This time slower. Someone or something stepping into the aisle. I could only see from about the waist down at first. Dark pants. Bare feet. That part didn't make sense. No one in our office walks around barefoot. I tried to rationalize it.
Maybe I was still dreaming. Maybe this was just part of the paralysis. But then it stopped, directly in front of my desk. And slowly, it leaned down. Until I could see its face. Or at least, part of it. It was hard to make out clearly, but something was wrong. The eyes looked off. Like they weren't focused on me properly. Or maybe they were focused too much. I don't even know how to explain that. We just stared at each other. I was literally trying everything to move at that point. Even just twitch a finger. Nothing. Then it did something that I still think about sometimes.
It smiled, but not like a normal smile. It was too slow, too deliberate. And then it said something, very quietly. You stayed. I felt this rush of panic hit me all at once, because that didn't even make sense. Like, stayed from what? Before I could even think about it more, I suddenly could move again. I pushed my chair back so hard it slammed into the desk behind me. I stood up immediately and turned on every light I could find. The office was empty. Completely empty. No one there. No movement. No sound. I checked the entire floor. Even the bathrooms. Nothing. At that point, I just grabbed my stuff and left. I didn't even bother finishing my work. The next day, I asked the building manager if anyone else had been there that night. Security, cleaners, anyone. He told me no. The cleaning crew had come earlier that evening. And after that, the building was empty. Except for me. I tried to just brush it off as sleep paralysis.
Maybe my brain just filled in the environment around me. That's what people say happens. But there's one thing I still can't explain. When I got back to my desk the next day, my chair wasn't where I left it. It was pushed in neatly under the desk. And I know for a fact, I didn't do that.
I've only had sleep paralysis a handful of times in my life. And before this happened, I always thought people exaggerated it a little. Like, yeah, you can't move, maybe you hallucinate a bit, but it didn't sound that bad. Now I know it's exactly as bad as people say. Maybe worse. This happened about a year ago, when I was still living alone in a small apartment. Nothing special about the place. 1 bedroom, small living room, kitchen. Pretty normal. I used to stay up pretty late most nights, usually on my phone or watching videos until I passed out. And that night wasn't any different.
I remember falling asleep sometime after 2 a.m. I don't know how long I was asleep before it started, but I woke up suddenly. Not fully, just aware. The first thing I noticed was that I couldn't move. At all. I tried to shift my arm, even just my fingers. Nothing. That's when it hit me. Sleep paralysis. I had read about it before, so I tried to stay calm. I told myself, just wait it out. It'll pass. And for a few seconds that actually worked. But then I noticed something else. My room felt different. It's hard to explain, but it felt heavier. Like the air itself was thick. And I had this really strong feeling that I wasn't alone.
I tried to look around, but my head wouldn't move. All I could see was my bedroom door. It was slightly open. I always sleep with it closed, or at least I'm pretty sure I do. I started trying harder to move, thinking maybe I could snap out of it faster. Still nothing. That's when I heard it. A slow, soft sound, like something dragging across the floor. It was coming from the hallway. I immediately tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was my neighbor. Maybe I was still dreaming. But the sound kept getting closer. Slow, uneven, like footsteps, but not quite right. And then it stopped, right outside my door. I was staring at that small gap in the doorway, just waiting. I don't even know what I was expecting to see. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the door moved. Just slightly. Like it was being pushed open very slowly. I tried to scream, but I couldn't make a sound. The door opened just enough for me to see into the hallway. And then something stepped into my room. At first, I couldn't make it out clearly. It was just a shape. Tall, thin, darker than everything around it. I told myself it was just part of the paralysis. That people see things all the time during it.
But this felt different. It didn't just stand there. It moved, slowly walking toward my bed. I could hear it. Actual footsteps this time. Soft, but real. I tried everything to move. I was literally putting all my focus into just lifting my arm. Nothing worked. The figure stopped at the side of my bed, and then it leaned down. I couldn't see a face. It was too dark, but I could feel it. Right next to me. like it was inches away. Then I heard something. A voice. Very quiet. Right by my ear. You left the door open. I felt this cold rush go through my whole body because I didn't remember leaving it open. I was trying to process what it even meant. Like, why would that matter? And then suddenly, I could move again. I sat up immediately and turned on the light. My room was empty. No one there. No sound.
And then, suddenly, I could move again. I sat up immediately and turned on the light. My room was empty. No one there. No sound. Nothing. I got out of bed and checked the hallway. Completely clear. I even checked the front door. Locked. Everything was exactly how it should be. Except for one thing. My bedroom door was open. Not just slightly. Wide open. I stood there for a while just staring at it, trying to make sense of everything. Maybe I forgot to close it. Maybe I opened it earlier and didn't remember. That's what I kept telling myself. But I don't think that's what bothered me the most.
It was the voice. The way it said that one sentence. Like it wasn't a warning, more like it was pointing something out. And ever since that night, I don't sleep with my door open anymore. Even in the summer. Even if it gets too hot. I always make sure it's closed before I go to bed. And I check it more than once. Because now, I can't stop thinking about what would have happened if it was already open.